God tells me, though, the only way to have immortal life is through the person of Jesus Christ. Never in any Masonic ritual do they point that Jesus is this way of salvation.
Now, if I heard Bill Mencken correctly, and if I'm accurately comprehending the comments I have received in the mail from Masons, I think that I can summarize their argument this way. Freemasonry is not a religion because of the following things. Number one, it does not meet the definition of religion. Number two, it offers no system or teaching of salvation. Number three, it has no creed, no confession of faith, no theology, and no ritual of worship. And four, it has no symbols that are religious like the symbols that are found in a church. Now, I think that in order to answer the question, is Freemasonry a religion, we need to start with the definition of religion. It's interesting that Masonic author Alphonse Serza, in his book, Let There Be Light, a study in anti-Masonry, has said, by any definition of religion accepted by our critics, we cannot qualify as a religion. Well, to see if that's true or false, let's begin with the definition of religion from a credible source. How about Webster's Dictionary? See if you think Freemasonry is included or excluded by this definition. Webster defines religion as, 1, a belief in a divine or superhuman power to be obeyed or worshipped as the creator and ruler of the universe. 2, expression of this belief in conduct and ritual. Now, would any Mason deny that Freemasonry demands belief in a supreme being? Would any Mason deny their authoritative ritual describes how they are to express this belief in conduct and ceremony? In brief, can any Freemason say Masonry is not a religion according to this definition from Webster? I don't think so. But don't take my word for it. Rather, listen to respected Masonic authorities. Now, in order to know who are the accepted authorities, we wrote a letter to all the Grand Lodges in the United States. And this is what the Grand Lodges told us. Coyle's Masonic Encyclopedia was recommended by almost half of the Grand Lodges in America as being, for them, the most authoritative book in print concerning Masonry. And 1/3 of the Grand Lodges recommended Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. So, let me quote to you what these two most highly recommended Masonic authorities say concerning the question, is Freemasonry a religion? First, Albert Mackey in his Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. He quotes Webster's definition of religion, and then after giving the definition, here is what Mackey states. Now, it is plain that in either of the first three senses in which we take the word religion, Freemasonry may rightfully claim to be called a religious institution. Interesting, huh? Let's look now at what Henry Wilson Coyle in his Masonic Encyclopedia says. Coyle quotes Funk and Wagnall's definition of religion, and then asserts that Freemasonry not only fits this definition, but fits also the definition of church. Here's Coyle's exact quote. Masonry certainly requires a belief in the existence of and man's dependence upon a supreme being to whom he is responsible. What can a church add to that, except to bring into one fellowship those who have like feelings? And then Coyle says, that is exactly what the lodge does. In other words, Coyle is saying that not only is Freemasonry a religion, but Freemasonry practices being a religion as much as a church. So, is Freemasonry a religion? According to Webster's Dictionary, according to Funk and Wagnall's, and according to the two top Masonic authorities recommended by the Grand Lodges in this country, Freemasonry is a religion. Now, are there some men in the lodge who have always thought Masonry is a religion? I'd like you to listen to the thoughts of a former junior warden and a former worshipful master.
Was Masonry a religion? To me it was. I was a non-Christian when I first entered Masonry, and for 12 years it was basically my only religion. I was attending a church, but I wasn't hearing the gospel there. I felt that the things that I was doing in Masonry were very helpful not only to me, but to those men that I was teaching the same things.
As worshipful master of Masonic Lodge, I taught the man that he had to believe in the immortality of the soul, the resurrection of the body. We had a chaplain. We had a Bible on an altar. Everything that we taught about how to lead a good life. To me, I considered it a religion. But the Word of God tells me that this religion should be through the person of Jesus Christ. Freemasonry never mentions Jesus Christ.
All right, the next reason that Masons give for Freemasonry not being a religion is because it offers no system of salvation. It has no teachings about how a man can go to heaven. But is that true? Well, you know, every candidate is told again and again during the first 3 degrees that God will be gracious and reward those who build their character and do good deeds. Let me document for you where Masonry teaches this. Every Masonic manual explains the symbol of the all-seeing eye, one of the symbols for God, with these words: "The all-seeing eye, who pervades the inmost recesses of the human heart, will reward us according to our works," our merits. What is the reward man will get because of his good works? Masonry teaches God will reward man with eternal life in the celestial lodge above. This is documented in the Masonic manual under the explanation concerning the lambskin or white linen apron. There it says, "He who wears the lambskin as a badge of a Mason is thereby continually reminded of purity of life and conduct, which is essentially necessary to his gaining admission into that celestial lodge above." Now let me ask you, does this sound to you like Freemasonry is teaching a way of salvation? If you were to hear this in the lodge, wouldn't you think that Freemasonry is saying that you can go to the celestial lodge above if you live a pure and honest life? And isn't that religion? And if you're a Christian, when the lodge teaches a man that by his good life and by his good deeds, God will admit him into heaven, isn't that contrary to your Christian teachings? Doesn't the Bible clearly teach that salvation is not by man's work? Salvation is only by God's gracious provision through Jesus Christ? Ephesians 2:8 says, "For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourself. It's the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast." Well, I certainly think so. I'd like you to listen to the thoughts of the former worshipful master about what he thought he was teaching in the lodge.
Okay, I found that the working tools of each degree of Freemasonry, here we're speaking of the first, second, and third, the purpose of the working tool is to teach moral truths for the purpose of building the spiritual temple of a Mason. Now, what's the purpose of building a spiritual temple of a Mason with these working tools? The purpose is so that they can prepare this spiritual temple for that celestial lodge above. They say in their ritual that as we build this temple, we will make you a good person and pure through the working tools now that they explain, and prepare your soul for heaven above. They say this in all of the rituals of the first 3 degrees.
If after all of this you are still not persuaded that Masonry is presenting a way to heaven, listen to Masonic authority Henry Wilson Coyle talk about the Masonic funeral ceremony. In his encyclopedia, he writes, "Freemasonry has a religious service to commit the body of a deceased brother to the dust whence it came, and to speed the liberated spirit back to the great source of light. Many Freemasons make this flight with no other guarantee of a safe landing than their belief in the religion of Freemasonry." Notice he says religion of Freemasonry. If that is a false hope, the fraternity should abandon funeral services and devote its attention to activities where it is sure of its ground and its authority. From all of this, I can only conclude that Freemasonry is a religion because it does offer instruction and promises of how a man may get to heaven. That's just another way of saying that Freemasonry is presenting a plan of salvation. If you just joined us, we're investigating the question, is Freemasonry a religion? We've already found out that it fits the definition of religion as given by Webster, and we've already seen that it does offer a plan of salvation, how a man can go to heaven. But then there are some Masons that would say, but Freemasonry cannot be a religion because it has no creed, it has no confession of faith, it has no theology, no ritual of worship. Well, we want to take a look at those, and first, can any Mason say that he has no creed? Here's what Henry Wilson Coyle in his Masonic Encyclopedia has to say about that. He says, "Does Freemasonry have a creed, or tenet, or dogma to which all members must adhere? Does Freemasonry continually teach and insist upon a creed, tenet, and dogma? Does it have meetings characterized by the practice of rites and ceremonies in and by which its creed, tenet, and dogma are illustrated by myths, symbols, and allegories? If Freemasonry were not religion, what would have to be done to make it such? Nothing would be necessary, or at least nothing but to add more of the same. Then Coyle says, that brings us to the real crux of the matter. The difference between a lodge and a church is one of degree and not of kind. Some think because it is not a strong or highly formalized or highly dogmatized religion, such as the Roman Catholic Church, it can be no religion at all. But a church of Friends, Quakers, exhibits even less formality and ritual than does a Masonic lodge. And then look what Coyle says in conclusion. He says, the fact that Freemasonry is a mild religion does not mean that it is no religion. But can any Mason really say that he has no creed? In reality, no person can become a Mason without a confession of faith in a supreme being. He also must believe in the immortality of the soul, give honorable service to God by practicing the secret arts of Masonry, say prayers to deity, and take oaths of secrecy. I want you to listen now to one part of the Masonic creed, their belief in the immortality of the soul that is taught during the Masonic funeral ceremony.
For me, that memorial funeral service is one of the most profound things in Masonry. Standing before the mourners, the family of the man whose body rests in that coffin, reading from a book that is used universally throughout Masonry for this service, talking specifically about how this man's fellowship with me in my lodge and what he learned in that lodge and how the things that he learned in that lodge were helping him, in fact, making it possible for him to get to heaven. That's very, very profound. What we were trying to do through that service is to ease the pain in the hearts of the mourners, but more significantly, show them that they had nothing to worry about. Their loved one was safe at home in that celestial lodge above because of the things that he had learned and done in Masonry.
I believed in my heart that what I was saying was true because I believed the teachings of Freemasonry before I was a Christian was true on how to make a man good and how to get to heaven. And when I talked to the deceased family, I also comfort them with the same words of belief that I had, that this was true. At the point at which I found, as far as myself is concerned, what actually cemented the fact that this was true, even before I was a Christian, was because standing beside me at some of the services, as well as standing beside me in the lodge, as well as taking part in the ceremonies, were Masons that were elders, deacons, Sunday school teachers, and pastors of my church that I even went to myself and was a member of before I was a Christian. So thereby, my thinking that it was wrong was completely put at ease because those I really trusted in knowing the Word were standing right beside me.
If what Jack said is correct, how can any Mason truthfully say he has no confession of faith in a doctrinal statement? Let me ask you, do all religions believe in the doctrine of the immortality of the soul? The answer is no. Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, Armstrongites, and Buddhists, to name just a few, do not. Do all believe in a supreme being? No. Hindus believe in millions of gods. So do Mormons. At death, do all believe they will reside in the celestial lodge in the sky for all eternity? No. Hindus and Buddhists believe in the extinction of the person.